Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very interesting episode and I want to start by challenging you. Your GTM plan is a fraud. And if you have been honest, you have always known it. Not because you're lazy, not because you're dumb, but because you have copied what everyone else did. And what everyone else did was never working to begin with. This episode isn't a teardown, it's a confession. I have shipped GTM plans with 80 slides, stakeholder alignment, buyer persona, content calendars, and stage-based pipeline metrics, right? An attribution dashboard. And you know what they got me. Pipeline that never converted, campaigns that looked great but did nothing, sales calls that went nowhere. We are going to rip apart what you thought GTM was and rebuild something that actually closed deals. And stay with me for 20 minutes and you will walk away with 3 brutal reasons why most GTM plans die on execution, the hidden flaws in how your GTM motion is designed, the $1 million framework to fix it, and make your sales team beg for more leads, and the exact system to execute tomorrow morning. But let's start here. The most important confession of all. Most GTM plans are made to get approval. I have done it, you have done it, and we all know it. Right? They are not made to win in market. Right? Because we seek validation, we seek approvals. And I'm going to start with fraud reason number 1. Your plan was built for stakeholders, not the market. Your GTM plan was never meant to work. It was meant to look like it worked. You filled out a beautiful Google Doc or a PowerPoint presentation. You mapped buyer personas, showed arrows, nurture tracks, and color-coded stages with Gantt chart, right? But here is what you didn't do. You didn't test it with the buyer. You didn't validate it in the market. You didn't ask, will this move revenue in the next 30 days? Because you weren't optimizing for revenue, you were optimizing for, like I said earlier, internal approval. You needed your boss, the product team, the delivery team, the founder, the board to nod, to feel like you were strategic. And here is an interesting statistic. 72% of the CMOs admit their GTM plan was reviewed more by internal leadership than tested with a real buyer or a customer. So your GTM looked like a strategy doc, but on day 1 it fell apart, right? Sales didn't believe it, leads didn't convert, campaigns didn't move anything. Why? Because you built for politics, not performance. And that brings us to the reason number 2, right? Why your plan assumes a linear journey that doesn't exist. And you got to tell me if this sounds familiar to you, right? Awareness, interest, consideration, decision. Of course, right? The classic tofu, mofu, bofu. You thought buyers would move from a blog to an ebook, to a webinar, to a demo, and then sign on the dotted lines. But here is the inconvenient truth. Buyers don't move linearly. They jump, loop, pause, ghost, reappear, escalate, stall, and everything in between. They download a white paper, but then go dark. They ask for pricing before watching a single video. They ghost you for 3 months, then come back ready to buy. Your perfect funnel logic collapses the moment it hits the chaos of real life. And I want to share an interesting statistic here. 67% of B2B buyers say they self-navigated through at least 5 different stages in an unpredictable order. And yet your GTM plan has linear nurturing tracks, campaigns optimized for conversion paths, scoring models based on arbitrary sequencing. It's fiction, right? And every time you hand this fiction to sales, they ignore it because they know buying doesn't follow marketing logic. And that brings us to the fraud reason number 3. Your GTM assumes readiness where there is only activity. This is where most marketers fool themselves. You get a form fill, you see a lead score, you get excited. But what did they actually do? Read 2 blogs, opened 1 newsletter, downloaded an ebook, visited the pricing page, maybe once, right? And we call that a hot lead. That's not readiness, that's activity. There is no trigger event, no internal urgency, no buying motion. You send it to sales anyway and they ghost, rightfully so. Because GTM plans that confuse engagement with intent are the fastest path to zero trust. 79% of MQLs never convert into opportunities, not because they are unqualified, but because they were never ready. And yet, we keep building GTM motions around these inputs. We invest millions into paid campaigns, SEO, content, all to fuel an engine that scores noise instead of buying signal. And that is the problem. And it is why your GTM dies before it ever gets a shot. So now we know most GTM plans are built for internal optics. They assume a journey that doesn't exist. They confuse engagement with readiness. But let's take it further. Even the best looking GTM plans fail on execution. And why? Because there are 5 brutal failure modes that kill your GTM motion in the field. And unless you build systems around this truth, your plan is DOA, dead on arrival. And I want to go one by one, right? The GTM failure number 1 is no trigger-based launch logic. Most marketers time campaigns by quarter planning, product release, sales push, budget cycle, and what they don't do, launch based on external triggers. Now let me give you a couple of examples, right? Your target account just raised a Series B, or fired their CMO, or published a 3x hiring plan, or their existing vendor got acquired. These are trigger events, the real launch signal. But your GTM plan, it's still sitting in Google Doc or PowerPoint waiting for Monday approval. Campaigns launched within 10 days of a trigger event have 40 to 50% higher engagement and 50 to 60% higher close rate. Your failure wasn't strategy, it was timing intelligence. And that brings us to the failure 2. Sales doesn't trust handoff. Your plan says marketing generates SQL, sales closes deal. Cool in theory, but in practice, you pass leads, sales ignore them. They say these aren't ready. You say they fit the persona, and GTM collapses in the chasm. I once built a 50-60 nurture flow with a 10 to dozen touch points, and it was all qualified by job title, lead score. And sales rejected, maybe 50-60% of it. And why? Because I built it around persona, not momentum. And 64% of the sales team say they don't trust the quality of marketing source leads. If your handoff aren't built on mutual signal logic, you are not aligned. And your adversaries pretending to be a team. Right? So that brings us to the failure, GTM failure 3, right? No signal-based priority. How do you prioritize accounts today, right? ICP fit, lead score, campaign source, demo requested. But what if someone never requested a demo, yet visited your pricing page 3 times? Or compared you to a competitor on G2, or used your integration or a ROI or a maturity calculator, right? And that's buying motion, and you ignored it because your plan wasn't designed to see it. In one GTM audit that we ran when I was a fractional CMO, 50 to 55% of closed won accounts never had high lead score, but showed strong signal behavior in a week to 2 before conversion. So scoring is equal to internal fiction and signal is external truth. And until your GTM engine ranks lead by motion, not vanity, you'll always chase the wrong prospect. And that brings us the GTM failure 4, right? No feedback loop between sales and marketing. And this is very interesting because you shipped the campaign, sales ran the plays, nobody updated the loop. Did the ROI calculator help? Were the LinkedIn leads junk? Did the SDR script land with the messaging? One of my clients who had 10 to 12 SDRs calling 300, 400 hot leads a week. When we finally listened to them, 40% were junk leads and 30% was just doing window shopping, and almost none had budget or a trigger event, because no one built the GTM plan with a real-time loop. Without that loop, GTM is a static fiction pretending to be an adaptive strategy. That brings us to the last failure, which is you built a plan but no system. This one hurts because most of what we call GTM is just a plan, not a system. No operational routine, no shared dashboard, no joint reviews with sales, no trigger-based cadence, no asset library built for signal stage. You have playbooks that no one opens, campaign briefs that sales never saw, intent data that no one activated. You built a 4-week launch calendar, okay, but not a system that adapts in week 5. Now, 70 to 80% of the GTM plans have no formal execution framework, after the first 30 days. So when the momentum shifts, when the market noise explodes, when sales need new angle, your GTM dies. Because it wasn't a living system. It was a launch deck with lipstick. And here is the truth. You don't need another GTM plan. You need a GTM operating system, because marketing isn't about ideas anymore, right? Ideas cheap. Execution is gold, right? It's about motion. It's about timing. It's about trust. And if you're still running campaign by quarter, scoring leads on form fill, or guessing when to hand off to sales, you're playing a go-to-market like it's 2012. Let's build a new system, one that actually prints pipeline. And I want to start with the step 1, installing a signal web. Forget single scores. Forget linear stages, right? You need a signal web, a multi-layered system that maps every account's motion across 3 signal categories. Contextual triggers, which is external, based on funding hires or layoff or vendor changes, right? And you can use various tools like Clay or Apollo or whatever works for you, right? And then comes the behavior signal. This is on-site or in-app, which is basically pricing page visit, ROI, maturity calculator, competitive comparison, right? You can use IP tracking or cookie based or whatever works for you, the ABM tools that you use, right? Then the third is organization level momentum based on the job listings, expansion, acquisition, and all of that, right? This indicates readiness at the buying unit. And if a lead hits more than 2 of these layers, trigger real-time alerts to your SDR and account executive, right? Your GTM plan should not be on a calendar. It should be on a trigger board. Instead of launching a new white paper in Q3, a webinar every month, and an ad campaign every 6 months, you launch based on trigger detection. Example, Series A raised, fire why Series A startup fail at scaling GTM campaign. Competitor hikes price, switch and save email and SDR blitz. Right? New CRO hired, ABM gift and tailored trigger pitch. Right? And your campaigns become unavoidable, right? Because they hit when the pain is loudest. You want your GTM to evolve in real time. You need a live loop between marketing and sales. And here is what to build. A hot signal, Teams channel or some collaboration, some WhatsApp group, whatever works for you, right? Only signal-based leads get posted. a 15-minute weekly deal desk, marketing joins to learn what works. A shared readiness grid, both teams agree on layer 1, 2, 3 handoff. A dead lead review. Every Friday, analyze the lost lead and fix upstream. Right? SDRs should tag every lead in CRM with 2 triggers or fake lead. Right? After 100 leads, your signal model will sharpen like a blade. Right? Your GTM gets smarter every week. The next step is most content calendar are vanity exercise. So you have to replace content calendar with a signal engine. Posting twice a week on LinkedIn, publishing a blog on Thursday, that's gone. That has played out. That has no value today. You need a signal content engine. Asset types that move pipeline, trigger kits, assets designed for specific moments like funding, layoff, competitor, or a CMO, new CMO hired. It has to be live in your content management system, ready to launch instant. And then you have ROI justifiers, calculators, tools, estimators. These make buyers look good to their CFO. Category fuel, right? Controversial point of view that stabilizes status quo, right? Maybe not controversial, but contrarian, right? Why your current approach is costing $1 million, right? Social proof sprints, right? Timed searches of case studies post deal close. You want to reinforce buyer trust, fuel post close reference, right? And internal enablement, right? Battle card and Loom built for sales and not for the show. You don't post for engagement, you post for conversion acceleration, right? And that brings us to the last step here, which is the installing the death audit and your operation layer. How do you do that? You must have death audit. Every 30 days, run postmortem on leads that went cold, why signal failed, and which ones, right? Second is layered dashboard. Don't just track MQLs to SQLs, track signal depth, velocity decay, and buyer intent per account. And do a postmortem because before any launch, ask where will this fail in real world. So not a postmortem, but more like a pre-mortem, right? And ops memory layer, right? Keep a GTM wiki with signal patterns uncovered and what flopped and why. You don't celebrate launches, you celebrate momentum. You are not just a marketer anymore, right? You are a GTM operator and practitioner. You're not running ads, you're running a timing, triggers, and truth. You don't hand over junk, you pass real readiness, right? And the funnel is dead. You are building something that is even better, a signal-driven machine your sales team begs to partner with. And this is only the beginning, right? If your GTM plan lives in Google slide or a PowerPoint presentation, it's already dead. If it isn't built on live buyer motion, real-time triggers, and operational feedback loops, it's not a go-to-market plan. It's a go-to-nowhere plan, right? And most CMOs never realize this until it's too late, until pipeline stalls, until sales starts, going rogue, until the board starts asking questions. By then, you are stuck defending a strategy that was never alive to begin with. But now you know what to do differently. And the difference between being another PowerPoint CMO or a pipeline architect is just execution. That's why I earlier said that idea is cheap, execution is gold. And you're not here because you are average. You are not watching this because you're okay with being safe. You are part of the top 5% marketers, the ones who refuse to repeat playbooks that never work. The ones who turn GTM into a competitive weapon, not a calendar exercise. The channel is built for you, the 100K plus marketers who are done with MQL theater, who want signal, not fluff, who want respect from sales and revenue to prove it. So go build, audit your current GTM plan, find where it dies and rebuild with the signal web, and then DM me what changed. Because the anti-funnel movement is just getting started. If this episode hit hard, don't just like it, share it with your team, send it to your head of sales, bookmark it. This is your new GTM blueprint, right? And if you want exclusive videos that I don't post here, join the free newsletter below. Every 2 weeks or so, I drop unlisted masterclasses on signal driven GTM. Next up, buyer personas don't convert, triggers do. We are going to tear apart every fake persona template you have ever seen and show you how to segment using urgency, not fiction.